I directed my first movie in 1979. Is a bang bang film production called The Servant, which is a cop and robber film, an action film. And since then, I have directed 16 movies and produced another 20. And Legacy of Rage was done in 1986. Um, it was a project that come to my attention from the owner of DMB, Mr. Dixon Poon. Um, he told me that he just signed up with the son of Bruce Lee, and at that time, um, he just couldn't find a director who can speak English because Brandon does not speak Cantonese or Chinese. So in order to communicate with the star, he has to find somebody who can speak English and who can do action film. So that's why he one day he just called me up and asked me if I'm interested to do a film with Brandon, and of course, being a true fan of Bruce Lee all my life, so I just jumped into that opportunity, and it wasn't a very easy shoot with Brandon because at that time Brandon was only like 20 years old, and I think at that time at his career he's just starting off. He'd been making some TV movies in the States, so he's not that familiar with the whole process of filmmaking. And plus the fact that he's the son of Bruce Lee, so it does have a lot of um, it does create a lot of burden that he feels that he have to carry on his shoulder. So that's why he's very sort of tense and nervous in the beginning, and so I have to do a lot of sort of counseling, Besides just a director and actor relationship, we become good friends. I almost become his older brother, and so besides just talking films, we spend a lot of time together and just talk about life, you know, and I think deep inside, Brandon is a very angry um, young man, and he told me that he gets sick of people sort of comparing him to Bruce Lee, his father. So that created a lot of difficulty for him to deal with people or even the media. So in the beginning, in Hong Kong, the media wasn't that sort of um, happy with him because most of the time when during the press conference when people would ask him about his father, he would just sort of like ignore the question or just at one time he even just stand up and walked out of the room. So people thought he's too arrogant and maybe too rude. Um, so I had to do a lot of sort of like patch up work for him, so sort of like explain to the media that that he has this psychologically, this burden that he had to carry all the time. That it takes time for him to get over that. Um, because if he couldn't speak Cantonese at all, so that also create some difficulty on set because the whole crew was Chinese, and as you know, language is a very curious thing. If you don't understand what people around you talking about, you either suspect what are people talking about you, or you have no idea what they're doing. So even though we have like three translator on the set all the time, it just sometimes that he feel a little bit frustrated because most of the crew doesn't speak English. You know. So the only person that really can communicate with him is either me or through the translator. Um, and because in Legacy of Rage, he has to do a lot of you know, action sequence and stunt sequence, and the stunt choreographer at that time also couldn't speak English. So there's a lot of sort of tension on the set um, every time when we get to the action sequences.
喂，電話啊！咩話？哦，唔該啊！女仔啊！
I remember one time he has to do this fight scene, and
喂，係咪阿咩啊？
he doesn't like doing fight scene. You know, Brandon really, what he wants is to be Robert De Niro rather than just an action, you know, action movie star. Um, so he just want to be people to recognize his acting skill rather than just follow his father's footsteps, you know, doing some kick and punches and all that. Um, so one time, you know, so already he told me that Ronnie, if possible, can I not do so many action sequence? And but I just had to tell him straight. I said, listen, Brandon, you know, people didn't be signing up because you are the son of Bruce Lee. So that is the reality, you know. So you have to. I mean, you can't get away with doing action sequences. And so he said, okay, I need double. I need double to help me out on my action, because you know, he said it plainly that his martial arts skill is not that as good as his father, or even close to his father. I said that's fine, you know, that I can find like double for to do those, you know, difficult action for you. And I remember at one time we're doing a fight scene in the alley, and we have the stunt choreographers and the double, so do walk through the action and do all the move and all that, and all Brandon has to do just, you know, to imitate it, to copy it, you know. And it's very difficult, you know, to do that, you know. I- i- if you are a martial artist, it's easier. uh, and if you have you know, first of all, if you are not interested in doing action or martial art, then it makes it double difficult, you know. So so we've been doing takes after takes after takes, and and the stunt choreographer, all he knows English word is just one English word, which is power, power, you know, which is what he meant is like more energy doing the movement and all that. But all he can say is power, power, power. You know, every time it's like Brandon does a tick and then he would say more power, and then Brandon would get so frustrated and then he would sort of like scream and swear and all that, you know. And then I have to step in and sort of like, you know, um, help out on the situation. I just said no, power. What he meant, power is just more energy, you know. And so he's cool at, you know, after you know, I explained it to him. And so, you know, we have it was not an easy shoot, you know, throughout the whole film. Uh,
幾時翻嚟啊？葉經理。
but we managed to finish the film in time for that release in Hong Kong. Um, but at that time, the media really not helping us out, you know, because they already like doesn't like Brandon's attitude and all that. So they didn't really give us a good sort of like good time, and I think the film sort of suffer a little bit.
叔，上一批貨你賺咗大筆啦，算得咩？濕水啊！我為咗啲生意仔就掠低條靚，我啊真係戥佢唔抵啊！三明哥，你反面噏風啊？唔緊要啦，二叔，你做係我都會咁做啊。不過條靚仔啊死得慘啲啫。
Going back to that fight in the alley, we have to use 3 stunts for Brandon, which is one for the kick and one for the flip and one doing the punch. Because he just couldn't sort of like do all 3 movements at the same time, so we have to sort of like make it very choppy and just to cover that. But there's, of course, you know, I'm not that
你俾雞碎咁多我，
thrilled with all that, but
九
you
哥
know
啊，
that's the
嗰
way
批
it goes.
下教課嚟咋，
He
溝成
just
百五個，
he
邊度剩
just
百粒
he
啊？
just doesn't like to do action film.
你當我係3歲細路，
So every time when we get into like drama and all that, he would be totally into it,
我心裏有
and
數，
have a lot of ideas, and then so going back and forth about
照上自己數口，
what the
加多一倍
backstory
俾
and the character, how the mental state is the character
收
should
住
be.
咁多先，
He's more into
你
that
自己快諗
area
掂佢，逼佢
than
埋
sort of
身，
like doing action film, which
睇
is
下邊個死先
which
嘅
is
啫。
totally the opposite of what I think the people sort of expect him to be,
用下腦啊，
Um,
錯佢唔死我哋冚家
but
鏟。
I think later on, throughout towards the end of the film, then the filming, then he realized that that is the reality, that people like to see him more as an action figure than anything else. So he gradually sort of accept that, not totally accept it, but still, he sort of accept as a reality, and so that sort of like make everybody's life a little bit more easier towards the end of the filming.
經理啊，我聽日可以跳
And
翻
it's,
舞未
what
啊
is？ what is funny is he doesn't mind doing some stunt work, like falling off cars, chasing, doing some physical stuff, but he just don't want to do martial art moves, and I just think it's because psychologically he just don't want people to sort of compare him with his father, because his father is such a icon, So I just thought at that time, in the beginning, I just thought he's trying to be difficult, but later on we become like good friends, and then we sort of like spend a lot of time together and talk, and sort of I understand his difficulties, and so I try to like don't force him too much, and just to hopefully in the coverage, I try to make it work, with stunt doubles and with different camera angles and editing,
有冇見到國豪啊？佢都喺度做嘢啊！
你哋仲喺一齊？
我翻去做嘢先啊！
At that time, I'm looking for a young, young fresh look, to be the villain, to the young sort of upcoming triad leader, and the gym that I went to, and the trainer in the gym sort of introduced me to Michael. He just said, "Oh, we have this kid that they come to our gym all the time, and he's a good physique, and he said he's an actor, and but he doesn't speak English, doesn't speak Chinese, but he's he's a good-looking guy, and you want to meet him." And so I met with him and talk about the role that I'm looking for an actor to play, and talking about Brandon Lee, and immediately that there's sort of like he felt interested, and I feel he has a good look and all that, and plus that he would be a good sort of pair with Brandon, and either on screen or off screen, because that way would make Brandon feel more comfortable on set, because both of them can just communicate in English. So they will have to speak their, because the film is dubbed later on, so they will speak their line in English, and then we sort of like dub it in Chinese later on, and the first day we have them together in the scene, and they just sort of hit it off right there, and Brandon told me that he feel more comfortable working a scene opposite with Michael and all that, and so which is helpful.
嗰把唔界領衰人嚟嘅，小心啲啊！
Not knowing the language is a difficulty, because it's very difficult on the actors, because they have to sort of react from a different language, and so it's like every shot I have to really sort of translate it really clearly and accurately, so that he can sort of like interpret the emotion, and but later in the later half of the movie, then Brandon already pick up some Chinese. You know. The casting of Bolo is I think it's more nostalgic because Bolo has I think he was a stuntman in the old Bruce Lee movie, and so like there's this nostalgic feeling of casting him playing this bad guys. And Virginia playing which is the girl that played Brandon's love interest. And again, what I'm trying to do is at that time is trying to, because Brandon is such a fresh looking face, a new actor, and I just want to have a bunch of new faces around him, and so that's why I'm casting Regina. Regina hasn't done too many films. I think this is her second movies, and but after audition with Brandon and Michael and her together, I thought that the three has a very good chemistry. And again, Regina also speaks perfect English, so that also helped on the set when they speak the lines. So I have to really sort of write out all his lines in English, so that they understand what the scene is all about. The script was written by two of my partners, Clifton Cole and Raymond Fong, and we spent only like 3 weeks got the script out because Brandon was signed very early on, and we only have a few weeks to start to do pre-production and all that. So we just have to crank out the script in 3 weeks. And I didn't know that throughout the filming, I still have to do all those translation, and I have to. So after filming and before the next day shoot, I have to get all those English translations out, so that Brandon and Michael and Regina would know what the line is all about. The most difficult scenes in terms of story structure is the one that involve the three person. The three supposed to be good friends, and then they turn enemy at the end, and then this little sort of love, jealousy, and love triangle. It's a very complicated and complex scene, and we have such a little time to sort of have to get all that across, So we try to sort of cram everything in within that two scenes, like the one on the yacht, on the beach, and then the flashback and all that. So when we sit down and wrote the script with Clifton and all that, I was a little bit concerned that if we can sort of pull it off, is it too much to sort of cram in such a short time, But after we finish it and look at it, it seems to be okay. Michael Wong really have a difficult time doing this scene because in one shot, he was the stuntman supposed to miss him on stepping on his head. It was all accidental. The stuntman supposed to miss him, but he actually just stepped on his head. But it makes it look pretty real. The good thing I find about working with sometimes working with new actors or so not experienced actors, they sometimes they give you something so fresh, and so real that you get surprises all the time. Rather than some experienced actor will give you the usual look, usual stare, And in Hong Kong we have a joke. We among directors we just say, hey, give me look number 8, number 6, or look number 5, or look number 6, and number 10, this sort of thing. formula. And I found working with Chen Weiman is such a fun thing because he was in my first movie, The Servant, and he is one of those tough guys that at that time when I was making the Servant, he would be. I know he's been making movie long before I do, so there's a lot of time. Then he would sort of show me some tricks about acting, about all that, and he would tell me about stories about the underworlds and all that, and so it's very colorful personality. And also casting Kurt Wong, the director, as the corrupt policeman. It's an idea that I come up with after having tea with him a couple of months before the movie, and I just realized that he has that sort of like arrogant, look. That so I thought, oh, maybe he would good to play that corrupt cop. So I just approached him and said, "You want to be in my movie?" He said, "Sure," and that was fun. Regina home scene towards the end of the movie, so which is good because at that time they are more accustomed to each other and feel more comfortable with each other. So it was a very easy shoot, and that Moroccan restaurant was a set. The whole thing was built in the studio. And we hired the ballet dancer from Los Angeles. We shot that sequence, I think, in 2 days. I think the only difficulties we have is of the temperature, because we shot this in the really hot summer, Hong Kong, summer, and the studio, it's not air conditioning and all that, so that's why it's very, very hot. I remember this is the second scene for Brandon. So it takes some time for him to warm up. This Aberdeen Jumbo restaurant scene is the first day we start to film on, the first day of shooting. And you can tell all the hairstyle is so nicely cut. The entire prison scene was shot in a little island outside of Hong Kong, where the British Army stored their explosive or armory. So we're lucky we got permission to shoot there because it's supposed to be like a restricted zone. And we spent like 2 weeks there. We even have to sort of camp out there and finish all the scenes. And because of we have only 2 weeks to finish all the prison scene, so my partner Clifton Cole has to have one sort of second unit team to continue shooting after I finish the main unit. And Brandon has to sometimes work over 18, 20 hours a day. Sometimes when Brandon has to interact with other actors for long piece of dialogue, then sometimes the actor would sort of speak the first word and the last word in English so that he knows where the sentence ends and how to pick it up. The fight choreographer Mang Hoi in this film has also a long history in the Hong Kong sort of martial arts scene, and he was only in teenagers. When he was in teenagers, he was already appears in Enter the Dragon, playing opposite Bruce Lee in a scene where they were on the junk. He was so proud of having involved in a scene with Bruce Lee. So when I approached him to do this, he just jumped into the opportunity. in the beginning, Mang Hoi and Brandon just very difficult to get along because of the language problem and also because Brandon just doesn't want to do any martial art move, so that create a big conflict, and that's sort of like in a way shatter Mang Hoi's sort of dream about working with his idol son. He thought his idol son would be just as crazy about martial arts as his father, but it sort of like disappointed him a little bit when he realized that Brandon has no interest at all with martial arts. The actor that plays the prison warden is a very experienced actor from the old Shaw Brothers studios, and he's been working on a couple of my films that I produced, and he's a very good actor. Actually, throughout the filming in the prison camp, he spent a lot of time sort of like using his one or two words English. He tried to communicate with Brandon, and Brandon is pretty moved by his sort of sincerity, even though he doesn't speak full sentence in English, but he did try to communicate with him. So that's sort of like helped Brandon a lot to sort of come to terms with filming in Chinese and in Hong Kong. When we do this attempt break scene in the car, we try doing a couple of takes, and it just doesn't work. It just looks too fake. And then Michael all of a sudden just tell Virginia, just kick me, just hit me, just scratch me, do it for real. He doesn't mind. So we did one take where actually she did kick him. But the prison laundry scene was actually shot in the Hong Kong hospital, and they only allowed us to 5-hour shoot because they cannot shut down their laundry service for too long. So we have to really plan everything out, and then we go in there and finish it in 5 hours. In that laundry sequence, I think Brandon purposely sort of like imitate some of this move of his father, like body language, like pointing the finger and shaking the head and all that. That is very sort of resemble his father. The climactic ending of this film is unforgettable because we have two units working simultaneously for 10 days. It's almost like 24 hours non-stop because we are committed to release the film in certain days that we have to get it shot, everything in the can. So usually it's like I'll probably work in the daytime, and then the second unit will work at night, and then vice versa. And Brandon was in pretty good spirit when we get into the ending because it doesn't really involve too much of the martial art. It's really like your usual action, like gunfire, physical stunt stuff, and he's just embracing those. So he does all this driving and all that, and I guess when you're young, you're just more daring, and there's a scene where he sort of like jump off this hill where the gas tank behind him explodes. Actually, it's him, not the stuntman doing it, and he's having a great time. I think that's also part of the reason that why the ending is all really gunplay rather than some martial arts move. It's also because I just don't want Brandon to feel like he's forced to do something he's not enjoying doing. And because of the tight shooting schedule that we don't really have time to do any storyboard or anything like that. So what we can do is just every night we just sit down for an hour or so with the stuntman and the production people. I just go, walk them through the whole scene, how I want it to be done and all that, and then they just do the preparation. So it was a really rush production, and I think the production people did a very good job giving that short period of time and preparation time. The scene where Mang Hoi show his arsenal collection is really, we clear out 3 rental house from Hong Kong. We just get all their guns. The special effect, or the physical special effect, the pyrotechnic, was done by that Englishman from England. We especially hired him to do all the pyrotechnic, the explosion, the gun fire, the all that. I think at that time we are the first one that sort of hire a foreigner to come to Hong Kong to do the explosion and all the pyrotechnic effects. In this shootout scene in the house of Michael Wong, I think we break record with the amount of squib and explosive we lay down on the set. We have at one time we have 1,000 squibs. So at that time when we were doing the ending, because of the budget restraint, we can only use the most is 2 cameras to shoot the sequences. We can't afford to have 4 or 5 cameras running at the same time to give us more angle to cut to. The ending with the still photograph is really not intended to be that way. It's just because we're just running out of shooting schedule, running out of time, that we can't afford to have a more elaborate, ending. And so this is the idea that I come up with, just using still photograph, which I used before on my first film, The Serpent.